Hey guys, this is Illusion PODFIC, and today we're going to be reading Green Through and Through by Another Fucking Robin. This is Chapter 12. The next morning, Peter finds himself walking back to Martha's house. He had woken up in the early hours, the technically morning hours, after having too many dreams of dust and stars and blood to stay asleep. It was pitch black outside, but his eyes were better than most, especially since the green, so he busied himself with organizing the contents of the drawstring bag. The toothbrush, toothpaste, pads, tampons, and soap all went into the employee bathroom. The socks, underwear, and extra set of clothes all got folded and put up in an empty shelf. And he arranged the gift cards and coupons and put them inside the cash register. He still had too much time to kill, though. So he picked a book off the shelf and started reading. It was an Edgar Allan Poe anthology, and it reminded him of MJ. He read until he felt the sun come up and the world shifted out of the purples and blues that always appear when he strains his eyes at night. He deemed it to be a semi-reasonable time and set out in the streets, hoping that the walk and the cold morning air would distract him from his hunger. But his legs have other ideas, taking him to Martha's house, and the slowly growing smell of pancakes. He's happy with his legs' decision, and he is excited to see Harper again, tell her about his interaction with Red Hood. He thinks she'll get a laugh out of it. By the time he gets there, breakfast is in full swing, bustling and talking and munching. He can't see Harper's bright shock of blue hair over the tide of heads bobbing up and down, obstructing his view, and decides to find her later, after he has had food. He gets his plate, 2 pancakes piled with cut strawberries and honey, from a nice-looking girl at the counter, and makes his way over to the tables. Scanning for a seat, he manages to find a partially empty table in a far corner and sits down in a free spot. There are only 5 other people here. An older man, late 50s, hunched over his plate at the head of the table, 2 women in their mid-20s chatting amicably with each other. They look like they just got off work in a bar, or maybe a brothel, and a boy his age gripping the hand of a small girl, who Peter assumed to be a sister based on their identical spiky blonde-brown hair and dark eyes. They sat opposite him. The boy keeps looking around, paranoia radiating off of him in waves, his leg bouncing uncontrollably under the table. His little sister, however, is completely engrossed in her pancakes, happily licking the honey off her fingers. His spider sense is calm enough, so he decides to take her lead and dig in. He's halfway through his second pancake when her high-pitched little voice rings out, distracting him from eating. "Artie, I'm still hungry." She pouts, tiny arms crossed over her chest, glaring with as much power as she can muster at her now empty plate. "Yeah, I know," he says, glancing ruefully at his own. "But we can't have seconds, because it's getting colder, so the shelter is getting more full. So you have to wait until school, and anyways, what's her name? Tilly? Millie. Frilly? Millie!" She laughs. "No, that's not it. Ah, yes, Silly." "No, her name isn't Silly. The little girl giggles. "Her name is Millie." "Okay then, Millie gives you her fruit roll-ups at lunch, so you can have one of those soon, yeah?" "Okay," she replies somewhat dejectedly, and starts playing around with her fork. Peter knows hungry. He knows having to wait for his friends to give him some of their snacks at lunchtime. No one should have to live that way, let alone a little girl. "You can have the rest of mine if you want." He knows it's not his place, but he wouldn't be able to keep eating with her, looking so sad anyways. Her brother Artie, he thinks, sends him a deeply suspicious look. "What's in it for you?" he asks, distrust through every syllable. "Nothing. I was just finishing anyway. Thought you might like some extra strawberries. Sorry it's half eaten." The boy sends him another wary look. "You don't have to take it if you don't want to." He's about to respond, but his sister stands up on the bench and reaches over the table to grab his plate. But her arms are too short, leaving her grasping at air. He nudges it into her. With a small chuckle, she quickly slides the plate towards herself, loudly exclaiming, "Thank you, mister." A large smile spreads across Peter's face. Her happiness is definitely worth his hunger. The boy sends him a look, eyebrows furrowed in uncertainty, gaze brimming with thanks. Peter just moves away, smiling inside and out. Somehow, Peter is on his way to the library again. It makes him smile how easily he fell into a routine again. Wake up, Martha's, library, Martha's, and back to the bookshop to repeat. Peter likes his routine. They help him quite a lot. Back in Queens, his phone had about 12 million alarms ranging from telling him to remember his homework to telling him to wrap up patrol. For about a year, he had Karen in his ear telling him to do all that sort of stuff, but then he gave back his suit and was left at square one, and it was quite a shock at how much she helped him with his time management skills. After that, he set up his alarms and started building his own AI. A half-finished Stanley must be sitting in Peter's desk back home. He hopes Ned will come home and keep him company. He's not sure, but he thinks that Stanley can process loneliness, because whenever he gets back from school, the AI will ask where he was, and Peter never programmed that into him. Stanley's the best. He's too clunky right now to fit into a spider suit or an earbud, so he can't come on patrol, but Stanley was able to send Peter's phone texts and he recently discovered ghosts, so that was a never-ending laugh. He pushes those thoughts aside because they are ever so rudely reminding him of the crippling loneliness that he's trying really hard to ignore. You're not alone, kid. You've got us. Ah, yes, because why would you have depression when you can have auditory hallucinations instead? He is somewhat reassured to spot Miss Barbara behind the desk, stamping books when he enters the library. He hadn't realized how jarring it was to not see Harper that morning. She seems to spot him and wave him over with an easy smile, and Peter waves back and happily jogs towards her. Hiya, Peter. Skipping out on school, are we? Huh. Peter hadn't really thought about school, too focused on his spiraling. He hadn't been keeping track of the days either, but it must be Monday because this wasn't an issue yesterday. It would look suspicious to be walking around on a school day. Maybe he should join one, if only not to attract CPS. It doesn't seem like too bad of an idea. It could be a nice distraction, especially a STEM school. It could be a nice reminder of home. And he might be able to knit some chemicals for his webs. He guesses he can reschedule his breakdowns and squeeze in a 6-hour slot for school. Go on, Pete. Wallowing in existentialism isn't healthy. One Matt is enough. Nah, I'd say Matt wallows in Catholic guilt more than impending doom. Though he does like to switch it up sometimes. Doesn't matter. Ask her about it, Pete. I bet she'll be able to help you out. Well, if the symptoms of his slow descent into madness like it, who is he to argue? Yeah. Do you think you can help me with that? Her gaze softens. Of course, Peter. She gestures for him to join her on her side of the desk. What sort of stuff are you into? Could help us narrow it down, she says, quickly pulling up a new tab and starting her search, fingers flying over the keys faster than even Ned can manage. I really like math and science, biochem mainly, but I dabble. I dabble, he says. I put my own AI in my free time, no biggie. You undersell yourself, kid. It is not arrogant to be proud. Is that Loki? Barbara interrupts his confusion. Why is he hallucinating Loki? Well, it's really cool, Peter, and really narrows it down. She smiles and clicks on a website link. How about Gotham Prep? Great STEM school. You can even get a free ride with the Wayne Foundation. The only problem is that because it's private, there's a uniform and snobby rich kids. Peter pushes away that can of worms and scans the website, joy building in his throat. It's like a Gothamified version of Midtown. Same vibes from the clearly staged photos on the website. Same we have funding, labs and displays. Same teachers that look too tired and bored for people who get to spend their whole day talking about theoretical physics. It's basically just Midtown with a couple extra zeros, spires, and gargoyles added on top. Yeah, this looks amazing. Thank you so much, Miss Barbara. She rolls her eyes at the name. It really wasn't a problem. You should think it over, maybe give it a look with your guardian. Ah yes, Peter's guardian. Demiheen doesn't exist in this universe, and even if he did, looking over Gotham Prep's website wouldn't help either of them. And please, Peter, just call me Barbara. No thanks. She shoos him away, laughing quietly. Peter just moves back around the desk, hands raised in surrender, a sheepish smile stretched across his face. Damn, it feels really good to smile. He waves her a goodbye and moves towards the computers to research more into the school. Once he boots up the computer, which takes approximately too long, he starts his search. It looks great. The science program actually covers some of the contents he doesn't know, and it's a close enough walk from the bookshop. Close enough for someone with super speed and stamina, mind you. However, the biggest plus is the full ride scholarship offered by the Wayne Foundation. The scholarship exam is on the 8th of September, the day after next, which is a much appreciated break from the usual Parker luck under which the exam would start exactly 4 minutes from now, and Peter would have to sprint to make it on time. And he would probably be holding a birthday cake or something, just to make it extra hard. The academic scholarship would give him a full ride, tuition, as well as a weekly stipend of $100, courtesy of the Gotham residence hembo, one Brucey Wayne. He feels bad at taking even more money from Bruce, but he's been stranded in an alternate universe, and he's just trying to survive. He'll pay him back once he gets his feet back under him. He applies and spends the rest of his library visit researching history in preparation for the test. It would be silly to miss out on the scholarship because Washington doesn't exist over here or something. The walk back to the bookstore is nice. It's only 4:30, but the sky is already fading. The sunset is obscured by thick cloud cover, but if you look hard enough, you can see pink glowing through the sky. It's quite beautiful. He walks with his hands wrapped up in his hoodie sleeves and stubbornly shoved in his pockets in an attempt to keep out the pervasive chill. It doesn't work, but maybe if he tries hard enough, he can placebo himself into thinking that it does. He tries to blow hot breath into his hands about 4 times before remembering that his breath isn't much warmer than the surrounding air, rolling his eyes and stuffing his hands back in his pockets. That's actually a big thing that he misses from before the bite. Breathing fog during winter. He knows that it sounds silly, but the sight of his own breath on the wind never failed to fill him with innate childish joy, and he misses it. However, his constant coldness does mean that he gets a ton of hugs, gloves, and scarves, and stupid hats from his friends. Every year since he has gotten at least one sweater or blanket every Christmas/Hanukkah, and that's a pretty even trade in his book. He is pulled out of his reminiscing by a sharp cry. He breaks into a sprint, when he turns down the alley where the sound originated from and is met with quite a sight. There are 6 men dressed as clowns, makeup and everything, holding 2 very scared women at gunpoint. "Knock her out," says one behemoth of a clown who Peter christens as Jumbo. "Can't have her attracting a bat." A comically short clown, Dinky, Peter decides, moves to knock out the woman who had presumably screamed with his polka-dot shotgun. Not on his watch. He rushes forward and grabs the butt of the weapon and shoves it into Dinky's head instead. "Come on, fellas, that's no way to treat a lady," he says as Dinky's body falls a very short distance to the floor, completely unconscious. He discards the weapon and gestures with his head for the 2 ladies to get out of there, which they do in record time, all the while the damn circus is just staring, dumbstruck. "Are we gonna fight or what?" he quips, slipping back into his Spider-Man persona. Jumbo seems to shake out of his stupor first and yells, "Get him!" which kicks the others into action. 2 spindly men with similarly painted guns to Dinky takes a step back from the group. In an attempt to get a clear shot, he'll call those 2 Tweedledee and Tweedledum. At the same time, 2 bruiser-looking clouds, one with a metal bat and the other with a crowbar, stalk towards him with wicked smiles. They shall be called Chuckles and Bozo. Jumbo yells and tries to tackle him into the alley wall, but Peter ducks under his outstretched arm and kicks the back of his knees. He only means to temporarily cripple the clown, but as Jumbo falls full force on top of Dinky, he hears a sickening crack and a pained yell that tells him that his leg is dislocated at best and completely snapped at worst. Peter thought he was holding back enough of his strength, but obviously not. Bruise, not break. Bruise, not break. He repeats his mantra in his head. Spider-Man doesn't maim and hospitalize, he helps. Shots ring through the air, pulling him back into the fight. His spidey senses remain quiet though, so he doesn't try to dodge. These men have worse aim than stormtroopers. He's about to deal with D and Dumb, and their terrible shooting when he feels a vibration ring through his teeth, and is forced to dodge back, narrowly missing a bat to the jaw. A second later, he grabs the back of Bozo's head and brings his painted face down on his knee, intentionally only using just enough force to stun him, but accidentally knocking him out completely. Okay, that's extremely concerning. He was purposefully holding back extra that time. What is going on? There's another vibration from his spidey sense that he interprets slightly too late, and a bullet grazes his arm. Okay, Peter needs to get his head in the game. His priority is D and Dumb. Their terrible aim and ricocheting bullets could hit someone. But he should only use his strength as a last resort, seeing as he's accidentally hurt 2 people more than he'd meant to. He moves to shoot a web at them and yank their colorful guns away, but there's no thwip. No webs. Shit. He really needs to make some web shooters. Chuckles tries to take advantage of his confusion by swinging his crowbar at his chest. Peter flips over it, sticking his hand in midair to push the weapon off course, sending Chuckles stumbling. He lands and quickly sprints forward, not wasting his time on Chuckles. When there are 2 men with guns, they both have rifles, which means he needs to get in close. Tweedledee seems to recognize this and takes aim directly at Peter's face. Instantly all his senses are dialed to 100, and alarm bells start blaring in his head. He drops to the floor, avoiding a hail of bullets, and slides between Dee's legs. "You guys have terrible aim. Bit of advice? Go for the juggler." He pops up behind Tweedledee and karate chops, as lightly as he is physically able, Tweedledum in the throat. Get it? Juggler? Jugular? Because you're clowns? He brings his arm back, slamming his elbow into the back of Tweedledee's skull, once again using so little force that it really shouldn't have an effect. But both of them fall to the ground, Dee out cold, Dumb still spluttering. So Peter brings his heel down on his head, forcing it into the pavement and effortlessly knocking him out. My humor is lost on jokers like you. He's about to turn and deal with Chuckles when he hears the fast footsteps and katanas clinking together on the rooftops. Wade. He spins around and scans the roof, hoping to catch a glimpse of the familiar red and black suit, maybe a snippet of his voice, and that sing-song Spidey that Wade loves to taunt him with. He's cut off from his thoughts by a crowbar to the face. The force of the blow sends him crashing into the alley wall. His vision blooms with white spots and his ears ring as he collides with the wall and then the floor. He tries to blink away the dizziness and lift himself off the floor, but the movement makes him extremely nauseous. So he aborts the motion and just stares straight down at the street, willing the tiles to stop shifting underneath him. Wade isn't here. He needs to get a grip. He hears a scared whimper and multiple impacts before Chuckles' crowbar falls to the ground, followed closely by Chuckles himself. Light footsteps make their way over. "You require medical attention," states a high-pitched but incredibly dignified voice somewhere above him. Me? Nah, I'm fine. I've had worse. You are stubborn. A gloved hand reaches into his field of vision. Let me help you onto your feet at least. He brushes it away and pushes himself into a sitting position. They inhale sharply. I'm fine, really. The figure manages to give him a surprisingly disapproving glare through the domino mask over his eyes. You have a bullet graze on your forearm, and were struck in the face with the crowbar only moments ago. You should not be conscious. He waves away their concern and tries his best to look nonchalant. He knows the Bat Clan's opinions on metahumans in Gotham, and he really doesn't need to be on Batman's shit list. He peers at them through his one good eye. They're young, maybe 10 or 11, much younger than Peter was when he started being a vigilante. Dressed in dull grays, blacks, and reds, with a spiky cape flying and non-existent wind behind him. God, this universe is dramatic. This must be Robin. He places a hand on the uncomfortably damp alley wall and hoists himself up, making sure not to use his sticky powers. Batman and his cohort have a reputation for being detectives. I'm cool, I swear, okay? It looks worse than it is. It barely touched me. Robin is not impressed. I'm just gonna go. He points a pair of finger guns at them and walks backward out of the alley, accidentally knocking over 2 trash cans on his way out. Once he turns around the corner, he knows that Robin is following him. He doesn't really care. He does, however, want to get a good look at himself. His right cheek burns, and the eye is in a permanent squint. He wants to know how bad it is so he will know how long it will take to heal, how long to avoid Barbara. He eventually finds a window display that conveniently doubles as a mirror. His entire right socket is an angry red, already beginning to bruise, and he has a nasty gash snaking its way down his cheekbone. He prods it and immediately winces. It would probably need stitches if he didn't have his healing factor. He can't believe he let himself get his butt whooped by a clown called Chuckles. He looks into the green eyes of his reflection as if to say, can you believe it? Wait, green? He does a double take to confirm. Yes, green. Well, there's a little ring of amber around his iris, but mostly green. What the fuck? Peter Parker has brown eyes. B-R-O-W-N, brown, not green. Peter hates green. Literally nothing good has ever come from that color. Goblin, Ock, Lizard, Mysterio, that weird anger, all green. He looks over his entire reflection, trying to spot any discrepancies. The first thing he notices is a white shock of hair right at his hairline. He pulls it down, trying to see it in real life. His hair is long enough that he can see that the strand is indeed white. The other thing he notices is that his shoulder blades are broader, and he might be slightly taller. It's kind of hard to tell. And his jaw is more squared than before. His chest it's almost completely flat. He tilts his head at his reflection. It's fucking weird. He has always had a love-hate relationship with his appearance. It has never truly reflected him, that warm, ambiguous feeling in his gut. But it is what he looks like, how people recognize him, is how his parents should have known him, how Ben did know him. The long brown hair and brown eyes, non-athletic and skinny. Glasses always pushed up at the bridge of his nose. That was never him. A lot of that changed since he came out in 6th grade. And since he got bit in 7th, he cut his hair, the long brown that May had always said reminded her of his mom. It had felt like a betrayal and a freedom all at once. He started wearing clothes that made him feel more comfortable. Ben had said that he dressed exactly like his father when he was little. It had taken him by surprise, but it's a link to his dad that he still cherishes. But that was his choice. His. He didn't choose to bleach the color that he shares with his mom from the patch of his hair. He didn't choose to get rid of the warm brown eyes that came from his dad. If they saw him now, would they even recognize him? Before he even knows what's happening, his hand is where the window once stood. The glass dust is floating through the air like confetti. He feels as if he's choking on his guilt, because despite losing his choice, he's still elated by the change. That vague soup of himness that lurks in his gut, has spread beneath his skin, sandwiching between muscles and ligament and bone, infusing his body with the feeling of ownership and belonging. Waves of self-loathing crash over him. How dare he? How could he take joy in losing the last remnants of his family? Peter. Breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. He wipes the tears from his cheeks and walks away from the exploded window. Robin has stopped following, heartbeat quick with concern, body stationary on a rooftop. Peter can't bring himself to care. Damien would be lying if he said that the boy did not pique his interest. He is clearly skilled in combat, able to incapacitate 5 of the 6 men, who were all noticeably larger and more heavily armed than the boy himself, with minimal difficulty. Though Damien cannot confirm this, seeing as he was not witness to the altercation, there are plenty of details that lead credence to his theory. The boy did not appear to be in very much pain, seemingly more disoriented than anything, hinting at being familiar with masking his discomfort. This could be corroborated by Ro, as she had mentioned his ability to expertly hide his hunger. He also had minimal defensive wounds, save for the bullet graze in the spot where he had been hit by the clown's crowbar. And even then, the injury is far less serious than would normally be expected for a blow of that caliber. Not that it didn't still require medical attention, precisely why Damien had slipped some painkillers and bandages into the boy's pocket. He is most definitely a medhuman. That could pose an issue when his father inevitably discovered their zombie problem, as Drake moronically named it. Father is notoriously particular about which enhanced individuals are allowed within Gotham. It took many days of persuasion and threatening for him to allow even John in the city. Father claimed that it would set a precedent, as if Drake does not sneak Connell into Gotham regularly. This would all be intensified by the current mental state of the boy. Though he displays an admittedly staggering amount of control, he is not immune to the Lazarus Pit's effect. Damien watches as he punches a window for seemingly no reason, quietly impressed by his ability to hone his outburst on inanimate objects and not people. The window bursts and crumples like snow around his fist. The boy clearly possesses enhanced strength. Whether it was pre-existing or revealed by the pit, however, is unclear. He seems taken aback, but his confusion could be directed at the strength of the punch or the anger that motivated it. It is impossible to tell from his rooftop perch. For now, Damien elects to keep the boy's abilities to himself. The boy does not pose a threat, not yet. He is scared. Should he be antagonized by masked vigilantes, he may lash out in an attempt to protect himself, which would not end well for either party. Alerting Father now would cause more problems than it would resolve. Contrary to the image he projects, Father has incredibly poor impulse control. Should it become necessary to share this information, he will tell Richard. Peter sits down at a table at Martha's with a steaming bowl of broth and a freshly bandaged arm, still grappling with the fact that he looks like an actual guy now. He doesn't even note the people who sit opposite him until one of them screeches, "Are you okay?" He looks up from his food and sees the little girl from this morning, who looks absolutely stricken. "I'm cool, how about you?" "But your face!" He sends her a questioning look. "She's right, man, you look like shit." He directs his gaze to her older brother, who vaguely gestures to his eye. Oh right, he has a fucked up face. "Oh that, yeah, it's nothing. Got a little bit mugged earlier, all cool now." The boy raises an eyebrow at him and rips off his bread roll, handing it over. Peter looks at the bread, then back at him. "Take it. I owe you for this morning, and you look like you'd use it." Peter just keeps staring. This morning he was just doing what anyone with a soul would do. Nothing special. He doesn't deserve this. "Oh my god, Peter, take the goddamn bread." The boy must see Peter's hesitancy and places the torn chunk next to Peter's bowl with a little flourish. "My name's Arthur, by the way." He jabs his thumb at his sister, who is still staring in open horror at his face. "This is Kat. I'm Peter." Arthur seems content to just leave the conversation there and go back to eating. Peter, however, stares into his bowl, running his tongue over the back of his teeth, a habit he's recently developed. Did he just make a friend? He looks over the table towards the siblings. Arthur is completely engrossed in his soup, and Kat is studying him, completely ignoring her food entirely. She seems to be thinking something over, something very important, if her furrowed brow, tongue sticking out of her mouth, are anything to go by. "I like you. You're like Anna from Frozen," she says decisively, and then she starts munching on a bread roll. Okay, so maybe he made two friends. Alright guys, that was the end of chapter 12 of Green Through and Through by Another Fucking Robin. I hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you next chapter.